Look, I've got to talk about Katherine Deves again, the Liberal candidate for Warringah. She's been a friend of this program. We first spoke to her last year about her fight for the rights of girls and women in sport, and we caught up with her after she became the Liberal candidate just weeks ago. But she's now a controversial figure because of a campaign to disendorse her, to cancel her over some of her comments in the past. Some of those comments have been a bit crude and unwise, and she's apologised for that. But a lot of the media pile-on has been deceptive, exaggerating her comments, taking them out of context in an attempt to demonise her. She's been targeted by the trans lobby and the hard left and even woke elements of the Liberal Party. And this just confirms one of her main arguments, that to talk common sense in this space is to invite nasty abuse. But while we'd like to talk to Katherine again, we reckon the Liberal Party, I certainly reckon the Liberal Party should let us talk to her again early next week. There's no doubt her courage has elevated this issue. Everyone's talking about it. Last night we highlighted Olympic champions Emma McKeon and Emily Seebohm, and now Dawn Fraser's come out too. It's a real issue. It's not anti-trans, it's just about ensuring girls and women shouldn't have to share facilities or compete in races or sports against biological males. Even the New South Wales Premier, Dominic Perrottet, was drawn into the debate.
I've made that very clear, that I believe that girls should play sport against girls and women should play sport against women.
People should have rights to raise issues and have public debate without being cancelled. And I agree with what the Prime Minister said yesterday. I think Australians are sick of treading on eggshells. When it comes to competitive sport, as a baseline proposition, girls should play against girls in competitive sport and boys should play against boys.
You had the option of...
But incredibly, that common sense, the overwhelming majority of the population would agree with, is now considered to be controversial and even inflammatory by some people. A crucial New South Wales State Independent MP has threatened to withdraw his support from the state government because of comments like you just heard from Dominic Perrottet.
What the Premier said was boys should play boys and girls should play girls. Look, I know that sounds innocent enough, but if you're a trans person, you understand that this is a dog whistle, that this is trying to drum up some sort of fear that people are transitioning to stack sporting teams and the playing field is no longer safe.
So it's a dog whistle now to say girls should play against girls and boys should compete against boys? What world of idiocy have we now entered? A new lobby group has now been formed on these issues. It's called Respect My Sex If You Want My Vote, and it'll directly urge politicians to address these issues and for voters to consider them at the ballot box. It's led by Karyn Lisignoli. We spoke to her recently because she lost her job running Girl Guides in Western Australia because she dared to say that Girl Guides should only be for biological females. Another radical idea, apparently. She joins me again now. Karyn, thanks for joining us again. Tell us about your organisation and its aims.
Thank you so much, Chris. I have to say, it's not my organisation. I'm just one of the spokesperson. This is a coalition of various women who have, for a variety of reasons, been drawn into this agenda, and we're very, very concerned, and hence we've got a coalition together to basically copy the campaign that the UK women have done, where they have the Respect My Sex, if you want my X, because of course over there in the ballot box you put an X, over here we use numbers, so hence the reason why it's Respect My Sex if you want my vote.
Yeah, so you're playing at the advocacy game, the sort of direct political game that a lot of the trans lobby and others do. Who are you looking to support? Presumably you'll get in strongly behind Katherine Deves in Warringah.
Absolutely, and Katherine Deves, she's almost like our little J.K. Rowling's at present because of the fact that unfortunately, from just speaking common sense, she's had a whole world of pain fall down on her head, the typical aggressive abuse, the typical attempts to cancel, the vilification of her as a person, and the complete avoidance of her actual argument. So the entire focus on this campaign is a bit like previously when I went public with the Girl Guides. It's to ensure that the average person on the streets, the mums and dads, realise what's happening and realise that the sex-based rights of women and girls is being usurped as a result of a very aggressive ideology which is replacing self-ID and gender identity ahead of biological sex. So we're doing this, and fortunately, well, unfortunately for Katherine, but fortunately as a result of that, it's starting to get a lot more public attention. So we've formed this campaign in order to ensure that we can, the awareness is raised so people know about it, people can talk to all their local members about it. Also, we want the politicians to realise that this is a really important issue, that they've been hijacked by an aggressive advocacy group, and that we need to come back to common sense. We need to change the laws back in order to recognise the biological sex-based rights of women and girls.
Yeah, all right. If I want to send my daughters, I don't happen not to have daughters, but if parents want to send their daughters to organised events, to sport, to Girl Guides camps and the like, they have a right to expect that only biological females will be there, or otherwise they should consent. It is common sense. How do you guard against an anti-trans element, though? You would concede that some of Katherine Deves' language went too far. She's apologised for it. Do you agree with that, firstly? And how do you guard against that in your movement?
Well, I think the thing is too that language is often taken out of context, as we can see. So, and it's very easy, particularly on social media, where you get involved in debates, and sometimes the language can get, let's say, a little bit more inflammatory. But the other thing too is, with certainly a lot of the words that Katherine said, Twitter has got limited characters, and so what's happened is they've taken one tweet out of a whole thread and used that to suggest that, to manipulate her words. So I think in all communication...
Sorry to rush you along. I just wanted to get very briefly from you, though. You talk about your support for Katherine Deves. Will you be organising any support in that electorate? Will you be trying to approach the election in the seat of Warringah as a test of this issue?
No, this is absolutely a non-partisan issue. So it's not actually about supporting Katherine Deves. It's about encouraging all the political parties. So in terms of the coalition, we've got people from all sides of the political spectrum and all sides of the ideological spectrum. We just want to raise the attention, and we want to make sure that basically we can come back to our senses. And that's the most important thing. In terms of language, I think, again, it's always very easy to get inflammatory. It's up to all of us then to actually come back to treating people like basic human beings with dignity and respect. Let's approach each other in good faith, and let's try to see what we can do to support everybody, including the trans community. But when it's not about exclusion, it's about inclusion and respecting the rights of women that have been fought for decades and decades and decades.
Yeah, well said, Karyn, and good luck with that, but batten down the hatches, because as we know, just speaking that common sense will draw a lot of fire from some quarters. Karyn Lisignoli there, formerly the head of Girl Guides in Western Australia, now running this organisation that we just mentioned at the start.